All right, so this is what you should look out for if you are trading NVIDIA earnings from a technical standpoint. So, if you wanted to take the risk, you're more than likely pretty safe as long as you're remaining above basically this 126.25 area. That's the 0.236 retracement from on the monthly fib retracement. And you got a little bit of support up here as well at 127.72 from the 0.382 retracement from that all-time high to that recent low from tariffs. So you do have a block of support down here. You also have the 200 MA in here, so that's that dark blue line on my chart here. Right above that, and you have this cluster of support, 123.80, 124.53, and 125. So you have decent support down here if earnings fail without it getting too bearish. Now, with that being said, the flip side of that is you could also wait and see if earnings are bearish and establish a new position here if you're not exposed. Would be a decent, pretty healthy area to be offensive if we come back here and test it. But having a stop in this area is more than likely the smart thing to do, because breaking through this area, especially breaking through this block here, leads it to be pretty bearish. Now, with that being said, if you want to be more conservative, so you're someone who may be older or is just more defensive in general, essentially to keep it real simple, basically set up your risk at the low of this candle here. It's 129.16. So somewhere in there, stop a little earlier, stop a little later. That'd be your first area where bears could sweep. So if you want to be super defensive, that's where I would look to be defensive there on earnings in general. Now, based on where we're sitting, and again, I alluded to this earlier, but we're basically chopping around this 134.22 area. Now, you do have this area is a pretty strong resistance. In fact, you can see on 521, the high of this candle was 137.40, basically lined up with that 0.236 retracement from all-time highs to the tariff lows, wicked off it and rejected pretty hard. So this area, and I also have an old LOI here from 137.81. This is the key area to break. It's actually not that far right now. It's 2 points higher, right? So it's nothing crazy, but breaking that, not going to be easy. Now, if it breaks this, you're going to watch for 141.36 to be your bullish confirmation. If you're floating around in here, you could get faked out. So be very careful if you're through this 137.81. You go, oh, I need to be a bull now. Be careful. It's not over till the fat lady sings, and you're at a very interesting spot. So I would be a bull as soon as Nvidia can crack this 141.36. Then I'm looking more bullish at Nvidia in general. And that really leads you basically to highs here. This 149.77 and then all-time high, 153.13. So you're not too far off on the bull side of things, where if it can get some juice through this level, so you want to look for specifically volume through this level, that bulls could actually have a very good push here. The other thing you want to be conscientious of is if we push up in this zone, you want to watch for a back test. So you might look to back test this area, especially this 137.40, that recent high, which is pretty aligned with the lines I have on my chart here. Watch for a push up higher, back test it before you push even higher. So that area might need to get retested, and probably will get retested as support before going higher. But again, I wouldn't be too aggressively bullish unless we get over that 141.36. Now, if we zoom out a little bit more, look out here on the weekly, and let's erase some of these lines here for a moment. That POC on the weekly is all the way down here at 116. Now, that doesn't mean we're going down there, but it does mean that we do have a little bit of a conflicting story here with the daily and with the weekly. Now, the weekly looks like it's starting to ramp up. Volume's a little meh. It's not bad. It's a little iffy. And your MAs or EMAs are starting to curl up, indicating that trend could start to be reversing to the upside on the weekly. However, on the daily, you had kind of, like I said, we're kind of farting around this range up here for a few days where it's iffy. Now, this isn't really shocking because it's before the earnings result, so people are positioning themselves, obviously. But you do kind of have this like inverse head and shoulder kind of look, but you're starting to get pretty burnt out here on your MACD. Again, doesn't mean much when you have a binary event like earnings that could change everything. But your MACD is starting to get a little burnt out. I actually like where the RSI is sitting as a bull where we could push higher. But your one bearish indicator here is your MACD is getting a little burnt out and your green star is starting to creep up on you. So it's not that it's bearish, but it's things to consider if we do get a bear push here. And then for those of you that look at volume profile in general, you do have a decent volume profile gap here back to that POC. But as I alluded to before, you're going to have to break through a pretty strong key area of support here before getting too bearish. What I would personally look for on this earnings. So full transparency, at least as of this point right now, I have no exposure in Nvidia. So flat opinion is I have no exposure. I have no money in this right now at all. I have other things adjacently exposed, but I have no exposure in Nvidia as it's sitting right now. With that being said, if earnings are perceived as good, and if you haven't watched that video, I made a video earlier. You can watch that on my channel. But if earnings are good, and I give you the reasons of what to look for in the conference call, however, the stock sells off due to potential weakness in growth or potential weakness in certain things being said, specifically things being said, and we tap this area that I alluded to earlier, this little support block over here, this is where I'd look to actually establish a long position with a tight stop, being around this 123.80 area, risking this lower block. So if I can get in at like 126.25, I could actually establish a decent long position with only a $3 mark down here, and knowing that I've got a few blocks of support here. Now, as a bear, you do know that we have these two gaps here, very obviously. If I was more patient, like I said earlier, there is a lot of volume support down here, right around this 115 to 118.24, this key level I've marked out here. So if we do blow through that support area, I wouldn't be as bullish, and I actually would be less bullish buying it at a cheaper price here, because it's going to be indicative of potential continued weakness. And again, we're talking about tomorrow and the day after and the day after that. Things can change, obviously, especially as we get more volume through the tape, we get an idea of where it could go. But if we break through that cluster there and we get down in this range between that 116 area and 118 area, I'm actually not going to be bullish, not necessarily going to be shorting it either, but I'm actually going to be just kind of watching from the sidelines. If we sustain in that area, you build out a base, then that'd be the time to go long with a tighter stop. But getting down here, breaking this area and getting sub 118.24, especially if you get under this 116 area, I'd be very, very careful, because you could retest this GP down here, which is between 109.98 and 112.03. And if that breaks for whatever reason, and again, we're talking earnings, so it could be a big move either way, it wouldn't shock me to get back to basically 100, and watch out for that. Now, that being said, we're going to do a quick and dirty look at the chain real quick while we're live and while I'm recording this for you guys if you're watching the recording. And right now we're sitting at around 135. So if you want to learn a quick lesson on how to do implied volatility really quick, or I should say the implied move on a stock before earnings, look at where you're sitting, go to that strike, and kind of just add this up, and you'll get a really rough idea of what that could be. And there's other more calculated ways to do this, but this is your rough idea. So you got $5, and we'll just look at the bid. $5 at 465, we'll call it $10. So the expected move, again for simplicity, is going to be $10 move either which way. And ironically, that $10 move minus 10 from 135, where's that line us? Right here, right in that cluster of support that I talked about. And again, to the upside, $10 to the upside, 145, that gets us over that bull line to push us to the upside. So the market's expecting a $10 move, so to speak, and again, rough math, on this name into ER. So those are the things you want to look for. So if you're leveraged or if you are exposed to this trade, keep an idea that you're looking for a $10 swing either which way, and obviously plan accordingly. So hopefully that helps you with NVIDIA's ER today.